and I'm Jennifer. I'm an educator with the National Museum of the American Indian in New York City and Washington, D.C., and I'm going to be leading today's program. I'm also joined by my colleague, William, who will be helping me with the tech side of today's program. William, do you want to say hi?
Hi.
Yes, good morning.
Hi.
Good morning. My name is William, and I will be co-hosting with Jennifer.
Hi.
Welcome. And good morning and good evening.
Hi.
Here's evening over there. I tried to turn on my camera, but it seems like it's not working this morning. I will try to do that later. Thank you. Good to meet everybody.
Good to hear from you, William, and good to hear from all of you in India. So let's start by reviewing the Teams features that we're going to be using today. During today's program, I encourage all of you to keep your cameras on if you're comfortable doing so and are able to. I love to see everyone that I have on the call with me today. Also, everyone's microphones have been automatically muted for the program, but as you just did, you can unmute yourself at any point in time if you'd like to speak or ask a question. If you have a question, though, please raise a virtual hand. So to do that, you can go to the Teams toolbar and select the Raise a Hand icon. If you're on a tablet, you may have to select the More Options icon first. That's the one with the 3 dots that I've circled on the screen in orange. So can everybody give it a try? Can we raise a virtual hand to practice? Let's see. Okay, that sounds like a plan. And the chat sec, whoops. No, that's quite all right. We're all working on this together. And William will be monitoring the chat, so if any questions do come up, he'll jump in and he'll let me know. So during today's program, I have a lot of things that I want to share with you. So in order for all of us to have the best experience possible, I'd like us to agree to a few things. So let's remember to speak only for ourselves and not as a representative of any specific group. Let's also try to listen and to not judge each other. If you find that you typically don't share very much in these types of programs, you may want to step up your sharing. Or if you find you like to share a lot in these programs, then you may want to step up your listening. So if these are things we can get on board with, can we raise a virtual hand? And I'm raising my hand too because I also agree.
Yes, I see hands coming up. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
That's quite all right. We're also working with funny technology too. I'm coming here to everyone from my basement. So it's quite all right. We totally understand. As we begin our program today, I want to take a moment to gratefully acknowledge the Native peoples on whose ancestral homes we gather, as well as the diverse and vibrant Native communities who make their home here today. For me, I'm on the lands of the Lenape people who make their home here in New York. So as I mentioned, I work at the National Museum of the American Indian. Our museum has 2 buildings. The one in the photo on the left is in Washington, D.C., and the one on the right is in New York. So I work in our New York museum, and our museum represents over 2,000 different Native American nations and communities from North, Central, and South America. So we don't just represent tribes in the United States. My first question for everyone is, tell me one thing you know about people who live in the Arctic. You can either raise your hand or you can post it down in the chat. It is up to you. What do you know about people who live in the Arctic? Let's see. What do you think? People who live in the Arctic. So, William, are we getting any chat responses?
It seems pretty quiet. Maybe we could show a map to see where the Arctic is. I mean, we have a huge world, and I know the Arctic can be very confusing, even for myself.
I agree. It is. It's a big, big space. It certainly is.
There is one chat that says that they want fire. It is pretty cold out there.
I know. It is cold out in the Arctic. So, of course, you want to stay warm. And fire is a great way to keep warm in the Arctic. Ooh, it's cold. So that is a great response. Do we have anything else in the chat?
Not at this moment.
And that's okay. All right, so let's see. So like we said, the Arctic is a very large place. And on screen is a map of some of the Americas. I want you to take a second and look at it and think about where you think the Inuit could live. We'll be sharing a poll in the chat with you so you can tell us where you think the Inuit might live. They either live in A, Alaska, B, Canada, C, Greenland, or D, all of the above. What do you think? Are they in Alaska, Canada, Greenland, or all of those areas?
Okay, so there is one more message that says they want liquid warm water to drink.
They do. I mean, there's a lot of snow and there's a lot of ice in the Arctic, so you have to melt that down on the fire that we talked about earlier so that you can have water to drink, because you can't just sit and eat ice. I mean, you could try, but it would take a long time to get water from ice just by sucking on it. So what do you think? Alaska, Canada, Greenland. Do we have any responses in the chat, William? What do you think?
We do. We have A, Alaska, which is a great response.
Ooh, that is a good response. What do you think, William? Alaska, Canada, Greenland, or all of the above?
I think it's a pretty cold circle. So yeah, people have lived in that circle for a long time. So I would say all of the above.
Sounds good. Let's see.
But we also have a B, and we also have Canada.
All right, so Alaska. We have one for Canada. We also have another one for Canada. Fantastic. These are a lot of good responses. So it's actually D. It's all of the above. They live in Alaska, Canada, and Greenland. And people usually agree that the North American is the Arctic Circle on up. And it's right around in here. So in this area, there are very few trees. And any wood communities use is driftwood from the ocean or rivers, or even wood that they purchase from further south. So while we, at the National Museum of the American Indian, we recognize all Arctic peoples, from the Siberian Yupik all the way across to Greenland, today we'll be focusing in on the Inuit. And see, this is where their homelands are. This is what I was mentioning earlier. They live in all those places. So the names that Arctic people call themselves can be different between communities, but usually the name that they call themselves, it relates to the fact that they're the first people on their lands. So the Inuit means the people. Take a second, speaking of words, and talk about the word Eskimo. So most people have heard the word Eskimo used as a way to refer to all Arctic people. But many Arctic people find this name hurtful or mean because they were called this by other people, and it's not the name that they call themselves. Many cultures in Alaska use their community's name for themselves. For example, the Inuit or Yupik cultures that we saw on the map earlier on. But Inuit is widely used across the Arctic today. So let's go back to that map. The Inuit have been around for as long as their stories tell them, and Western science says they've been in northern Canada and Greenland for over 2,000 years. Canadian Inuit are related culturally to the Inuit in Greenland and the Inuit in Alaska. Today, many Inuit people live in an area called Inuit Newkingok, which is what they call their traditional homelands. And this is a photo of Iqaluit, the capital of the territory of Nunavut on Baffin Island in Canada. So I'll show you guys a map, and let's see, where do you think Nunavut is? You can either raise a hand or you can post it down in the chat. And I gave you a little hint earlier on because I mentioned Iqaluit, which is part of Nunavut and is their capital. So where do you think they could be?
Jennifer, as our messages are coming in, there is a question. Do they speak Spanish or do they speak French?
That is a good question. So in Canada, many languages are spoken. English is a language that many Arctic people speak, but they also may know French, and a lot of Arctic peoples also know their language as well. And I will be talking more about the language that they speak a little further on in the program. That is a fantastic question. I'm glad you asked. And yes, some may speak Spanish if they learn it in school. Just like you may learn Spanish, and just like you were learning English now as well. Fantastic. All right. So William, where do you think Nunavut could be?
Oh, that is a very hard question. I know it's within that area. I've never been to the Arctic Circle myself, just in New York City. So my guess is as good as yours.
I agree. I've never been that far north myself, but I'd say it's somewhere around Iqaluit. So let's see. Yeah, there it is. Nunavut is right around there. It's Iqaluit and the northern part of Canada. So fantastic. Many Inuit do not live in their traditional homelands and are spread across Canada and the United States. About 3,000 Inuit live in the province of Ottawa alone, and around 60% of the Inuit can converse in their language. So I know language was a question that you had, and here we have a group of Inuit in Iqaluit, and they're taking a selfie, and they're wearing seal skin, which is one of the types of furs that they use to stay warm. And to answer more about the language question we have a stop sign here that's written in English, and it's also written in Inuktitut. And Inuktitut is the name for the Inuit language. Okay? So traditionally, the Inuit eat seal, narwhal, and they also eat caribou. These food sources are so important in the Arctic because it's expensive to fly food that far north. And these foods are traditional for them. While it's sunny all the time during Arctic summers, it is still too cold to grow food. So at some point, your adults probably told you not to look directly at the sun. Why do you think they said this? Why do we not want to look directly up at the sun?
Because maybe sun's rays are harmful for our eyes.
Yes, that's a fantastic response. It may be harmful for our eyes. Does anybody else want to respond? Do we have any responses?
Sun is brighter.
The sun can definitely be very bright. These are all amazing responses. Do we have any in the chat, William?
They're coming in. So it says there's ultraviolet rays.
Those are not good for us.
Because maybe our eyes are not been able to look at a sun. Means they are not like programmed. They didn't adapt themselves to look directly at the ultraviolet rays of sun.
Exactly. Our eyes have not developed a way for us to look directly at the sun. And our adults told us we shouldn't look at the sun because it can make us go blind temporarily. And this is what can happen to the Inuit when they don't wear snow goggles outside. So, if it is a bright sunny day and you go outside, what is the first thing that you are going to do?
Taking an umbrella or wearing a goggle.
Exactly. You might take something outside with you. You might try and cover yourself in some way. Does anybody else want to try and answer the question? What would you do on a bright sunny day, the first thing when you go outside? Do we have any messages in the chat, William?
Not at this moment, but I could tell you what I would do. I would definitely cover my eyes because in the morning, that is very hurtful to my eyes. A bright sunny day like today, that's what I did today when I didn't have my glasses.
The same here. It's bright and sunny in New York. So I know for me, I might squint when I go outside, make my eyes get really small. I might also take an umbrella with me or cover myself because it's so bright outside that you can't see. And squinting cuts down on the glare, that bright light from the sun. It also blocks some of the light and it focuses your field of vision so you can see what is in front of you so much clearer. Now that we know a bit more about the Inuit and the physics, that science between the sunlight in your eyes, let's take a look at this image of a Yupik hunter from our museum in New York. So I'm curious, what do you see, what do you think, and what do you wonder when you look at this image of a hunter? You can either raise your hand if you wish to speak or post down in the chat. Let me know. What do you see? What do you think? What do you wonder about the hunter? So William, do we have any chat messages coming in?
Not at this moment, but I have so many wonderings myself about this hunter. I am wondering if the jacket that he's wearing goes all the way down to his waist, below his waist.
Mm-hmm.
This seems like a pretty interesting material that is on the bottom of his neck.
Yes, it certainly is. So that's actually a parka made from the intestines of a seal, and you wear it when you go hunting in your kayak because seal intestine is waterproof. And there's also a fun special little stitch you do that will help keep the parka waterproof when you sew the intestine together to make a parka. And that goes over your sealskin parka, so you still stay warm and dry.
Incredible technology. There is also a couple of questions here.
Sure.
Why do they wear black masks?
Ooh.
Because it looks like a black mask from the image.
It definitely does. Unfortunately, that's our mannequin that the parka, the goggles, and the visor are resting on. I know it looks like a black mask, but it's not. It is standing in place of a real person who might wear these objects.
And also somebody states that he wants sharp vision to hunt. So I believe they're looking at the goggles that he's wearing.
The goggles, they're very important. And they do want sharp vision to be able to hunt. So some things you might see on the goggles are the slits for the eyes. You might see a strap that's made of hide. And hide is skin from an animal. You might see his nose piece or his nose. And you might see the decoration on the walrus tusk ivory. There's a lot of different things that you might see. Snow goggles originated in the Arctic around 2,000 years ago as a way to protect people's eyes from the harsh sunlight that bounces off the ice caps and that snow. These goggles are Yupik. They're from the far west of Alaska. Yupik, along with all Arctic people, continue to use goggles to protect their eyes from that harsh sunlight when they go out hunting or just plain go outside. The goggles do, in a more physical way, what we do when we squint or even maybe shade our eyes or use an umbrella. They block the light and they focus that field of vision on one specific area. These goggles are the previous version of our modern day sunglasses and goggles that we use today. The Inuit in Nunavut, Canada, call these ayura in their language. And typically, goggles are made from animal or whale bone, walrus ivory, wood, bark, or hide, and they can have one slit running across the goggles, or they can have two, like this man, depending on your personal preference and what is right for you and your culture. They are tied tightly to your head using animal sinew or hide. Sinew, they're the tendons of an animal, and tendons are the things that connect our bones to the muscles in our bodies. The goggles we just explored, they were made of walrus tusk ivory, as I mentioned, and also that hide as the strap, and the seal skin we discussed earlier for the hide strap, along with some sinew to keep the goggles and hide all together. So because the goggles are personalized to your face and your face shape, the slits, the eye holes in the goggles, they allow for the person wearing them to focus that field of vision on what is in the center of everything instead of everything around you. And it helps you to focus on the animal you're hunting instead of the ice and snow. They also do not fog up like regular glasses or even get blurry.
Excuse me, Jennifer.
Yes.
Before you continue, there was a wondering question, and it's
Sure.
about the designs around the goggles. Why are they zigzag? And they also mentioned, why not just make them into eyes?
Those are very good questions. So the zigzag and those little lines that you see here on the goggles, that's just how the person decided to decorate the goggles. They're extremely personal to each person. So they can put whatever they want on them. And when you go to make your goggles, you can make them however you would like to as well. So we also had the question asked about why they were not made in the shape of an eye. Well, that's a really good question. And I'm not exactly sure why it wasn't in the shape of an eye, but I can tell you, with the goggles you have, they fit right up against your face and your eyes. So it actually will block everything that you are that you don't want to see when you're wearing your goggles. And we'll explain a little bit more because there's one other piece of goggles, or piece of the goggles, that helps you to see even better as well. And we talk about that in just a little bit. So I hope that answers your question. All right. So here we have an image of some contemporary or modern day goggles that were made by Matthew Newkingok, and he's out of Inuit in Nunavut, Canada. He's a contemporary or modern day artist who's taking the idea of snow goggles in a totally different direction. In this piece, he makes the glasses look like a pair of reading glasses, but with the traditional 2 slits in the eyes, like for sunglasses. He's also using materials and things that you might find in the more traditional snow goggles we just saw, such as something like muskox horn. So if you've never seen a musk ox, this is what a musk ox looks like. He's very big, and he's got kind of curly horns, and you can carve the horns to make them into all sorts of different things. And the baleen that he used for the earpieces on his goggles, they come from the mouth of the whale. Baleen is similar to a colander you may have in your kitchen because it allows the water to drain away from the krill that whales traditionally eat. So this part back here, this is his baleen. And it works just like a colander we use to drain water away from our food. So players of American football or baseball, they sometimes put black grease under their eyes, like this man has over here. Why do you think they might put that black grease under their eyes? You can either post down in the chat or you can raise a hand, whatever feels more comfortable to you. What do you think? Why would we wear black grease under our eyes?
Okay, there are a couple of things coming in. Black absorbs light, so they can probably see that a little more clearly.
That is fantastic. Yes, it does. It absorbs light. It may make you see clearer. Do we have anything else coming in?
For protection purposes. Very good.
Yes, that is an amazing response.
And I have always thought these guys were going into battle as pretty big guys, so I thought it had to do some kind of battle decorations myself, but I know it doesn't.
Yeah, I used to think so too, because Hollywood movies used to show people with paint on their faces like that and under the eyes, but Hollywood actually took that from different Native cultures across the Americas and said this is what all Native people look like. Unfortunately, a lot of Native people don't wear paint underneath their eyes. Some do, some do not. It really depends on each person's specific culture.
Very good. Thank you for that.
Glad to. So you scholars were very, very right. Putting the grease under the eyes, it cuts down on the sun glare. And Arctic people, they use bear grease and soot on the inside of the glasses to cut down on sun glare in the same way. Okay, and you can see right here, the football player does that because when he's playing football, it cuts down on the glare for him. So this image shows you why it's so important to wear snow goggles. You can see the bright sunlight. You can see that snow. And you can imagine how cold it must be to be outside in Inuit year-round. The Inuit innovated snow goggles over thousands of years of creating, testing, and trying, and using the scientific method so that they would protect their eyes from bright sunlight. Traditionally, in many indigenous societies across the Americas, knowledge and information of the natural world is passed down through something called the oral tradition. Oral tradition is about teaching knowledge to the next generations via stories and conversations, much in the same way that we're talking right now and discussing snow goggles. Speaking of snow goggles, I have a pop-up poll. I'm curious to know, what are snow goggles? Are they traditional sun protection in the North American Arctic? Are they modern sun protection in the Arctic? Are they a work of art? Are they personal sun protection? Is it everything? What do you think?
I think it is everything.
You think it is everything? That is a good response.
We also have somebody that says it's D, and then we're having a couple of Ds.
Let's see. All right. So we have a
and
D.
an E.
Another D, another E.
That's correct. A D, and an E.
A D, and an E. Fantastic.
And another E. Wow, we
E!
have a lot of votes here.
We got two
Another
and two.
D. Wow, yes. So there's a lot of Ds.
A lot of D's. I see a lot of E's, William.
Yeah. And there are some E's as well. And there are D's. I would say the majority are D's. And then there is one C. So you did talk about so many different things about the past and the present. So yeah, I can see why everybody thinks are D's and E's, and perhaps one C myself.
I agree. It could be all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
It can be traditional sun protection. Your goggles can be modern sun protection because they're still made today. They're a work of art. They're personal sun protection. And it's all of the above. So everyone is correct. You all made great responses. Thank you guys for sharing. So now we're going to move on to the craft portion where you are going to get to make your own snow goggles. So I'm going to move over to my craft table right over here, and you guys are going to be able to make the craft here at home with me, okay? Does that sound like fun? All right. So I am here. Okay. So you all should have gotten a sheet from your teacher with a template for making goggles. So you could either have made a 1-slit goggle or a 2-slit goggle. And you were going to cut them out beforehand and cut out that little slit in the goggle. Okay? I chose to make my goggles with just 1 slit today. But you could make them with 1 or 2. And if you didn't happen to have the template with you, or you don't right now, you can just use a piece of paper, a pencil, and something round that you could use to make something that kind of looks like a pair of goggles, and you could trace around it with your pencil. Okay? All right. So I have my goggles with me. And the first thing I need to do is I need to make holes in my goggles so that I can put a piece of string through them. Okay? And feel free to unmute yourselves and chat as we go through this. Or you can write in the chat and William will let me know what you're saying. So you can either punch a hole with a 3-hole punch, like I'm doing, or if you don't have that, you could use a hole punch. And if you don't have either of those, you can do like you did earlier with your template, and you can kind of fold it back just a little bit, and then you can take your scissors and you can just snip, and you can make a little slit that you can fit your string through. But I'm using my hole punch. I find it easier. So put it in. Awesome. I have a hole. And I'll do the other side. Kind of make it line up and match. And there it goes. Fantastic. All right. So now we get to do the fun part. You get to decorate. Let's see. I'm going to pick some markers to decorate with. Let's see. I've got some red, some blue, some green, and I'll get some orange. And you can put whatever you'd like on your glasses and your goggles. Because, as I said earlier, they're very personal to you. So let's see, what do I want to do? I'm going to make a heart. My first one. Like that. Put the cap back on. Let's see. So do we have any comments in the chat, William?
We don't at this minute. I think everybody's just busy doing their goggles.
Sounds good. I'm going to put a few stars on mine. Let's see. I'm not really an artist, I'll be honest. So I'm just kind of making this up as I go along. Let's see, what else can I put on here? Maybe some swirls. I don't know, what do you think I should put on here, William? Do you have any ideas?
Somebody has an idea. I say an ace on it.
Sorry, could you repeat that again, please?
Just reading from the message. Ace. Perhaps it's the Ace of Spades. I'm thinking.
Ooh. Possibly the Ace of Spades. Let me see. I'm trying to remember what spades are. Let's see. I think it starts up here and it kind of curves around. And it goes down to a point. String. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our string, and we're going to put it between our pointer finger and our thumb. Or pointer finger, excuse me, and middle finger on one hand. But you could use pointer finger and thumb too. I'll use that. Okay? And you're going to hold your arm out really long. And pinching the string hard, you're going to pull it all the way up to your shoulder. Okay? And using your other hand, you're going to pinch it off. Okay? So remember, you're going to pinch down here, run it all the way up the length of your arm, and then you're going to pinch it off. And I'm going to take my scissors. I'm going to carefully snip right where I was pinching. And there I have the strap for my goggles. Let me go back over and attach them to my goggles so you guys can see how to do that too, okay? All right. Over here, so now we have our goggles. what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my goggles over. And I have my string. I'm going to find the hole in my goggles. And I'm going to poke my string from the back to the front. I'm going to kind of wrap my hand around and tie it once in a knot. And then for twice in a knot. Ta. And then I'm just going to take my scissors and cut off the extra string. I don't need that. But you can leave it if you want to. It's up to you. So let's do the other side. I'm going to poke my string through the hole. I can get it to go through. I'm going to wrap it around my finger. Push the string through the hole and tie it once. Do it again and tie it twice. All right, and I'm going to give it just a little tug, just so I can see that it's not going to come out right away. All right, and I'll cut that other little bit of string. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, and I have some beads with me. Now, you don't have to use beads if you don't want to. You can just put the goggles on and tie that same knot again so that it'll fit on your head. But I'm going to use a bead so I can make my goggles adjustable. So I have just a regular pony bead. And I'm going to take my string and I'm going to pinch it all the way at the end. Okay? I'm going to pinch it here. I'm going to twist it around and around so it gets a little smaller. And then I'm just going to take it and poke it back through the goggles. Or I should say through the bead, excuse me. Oops. And there it goes. Woohoo! It went right through. So now I can go back over here and I can show you all my finished goggles and you'll get to see everything. And don't worry if you wear glasses. I do too, as you probably could tell. These will fit over top of your glasses. Perfect. So
yeah, those look incredible, Jennifer.
Thank you. I like these. These are definitely fun. Thank you. So how did yours turn out? Did you guys like them? I know I like mine. And if you really focus and look through that center of the glasses, you can see it cuts down on the area that you're looking at. It also allows me to focus on what I want to see that's right in front of me, which is all of you. So don't feel badly if when you're wearing your glasses, you're moving around a lot with your head, because it takes a little bit to, when you first go to wear them, it takes you a bit of time to adjust to a different way of looking at the world. Okay? Perfect. So thank you, everyone, for joining us in our program today. You now know why snow goggles are so important to the Inuit and how we cannot have our sunglasses or goggles without this amazing innovation. I hope you also have a greater understanding of the diversity of native Arctic culture, and I look forward to seeing your goggles. And you can wear them out in the sun anytime it's too bright or when you think you need to cover up. So be sure to check out our website. We have a lot more things that you can do online. There's some more activities in some of our teacher resources, and we have a lot more programs that we're doing throughout the year online. So thanks so much for joining me on this virtual field trip and for adding your voices to the conversation. I also want to thank William for helping me out with the tech part of today's program, and I hope to get to see everyone soon, whether that's in person someday at the museum or another virtual program. So thanks so much, everyone, and have a great evening. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am.
Gracious,
Bye,
ma'am.
ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Goodbye.